Hey everyone, today I'm going to review how to calculate your moving costs accurately. Now, anyone who's been through a move knows that it can be a headache to figure out what it's going to cost. And if you aren't careful, you will end up going over what you expect it to be by a few hundred if you're lucky, or a few thousand if you're me, dollars. So I'm going to look at some of the ways that I've learned how to more accurately calculate my moving costs. And that includes using online quote calculators and tools, measuring your home personally with good inventory, making sure to use things like moving box calculators so you know exactly what your costs are going to be for moving supplies, because that's a tricksy one. Checking into things like gas and hotels, if you are driving any length of it, either with your personal vehicle, with a rented truck, or anything in between, and of course, looking at discounts when and where you can. So let's just dive in. I'm going to start with using quote calculators and tools. Now, this is one of the most important and, of course, the most widely overlooked ways to calculate your moving costs accurately. There are so many things that go into the cost of moving, like gas, hotels, actual shipping fees, moving supplies, the time or labor if you're going to pay someone else to do it. All of these things add up, and it all starts with a moving calculator. So if I'm going to use a moving calculator, I'm going to use one like Move Buddha, right? So this is a very popular tool for estimating what it's going to cost. And the reason I like this tool is that you can figure out what your cost is going to be for all of your options. So let's say you are moving from Oregon out to Wichita, out to Kansas, and you want to know about how much it's going to cost. Well, there are a lot of factors that go into that. And Move Buddha breaks down all of those factors based on distance, based on doing it yourself. So if you're not sure which route you're going to take, this is a good tool to start with. Now, I have been in situations where I'm moving myself. I didn't even think about hiring movers for any part of it because, you're young and you're on a limited budget and you think that your friends are happy to work for pizza and beer. Now, at some point, you might be adult enough that you're considering, well, is it really worth it given the amount of time that I don't have after work and family and cheerleading and whatever else? So that's where these tools really come in. So the first step here is the moving cost calculator. There are two key tools that I'm going to look at. So if we're moving our two-bedroom home with our one child from Oregon to Wichita for work, this tool will break down based on the rough estimate. So it is important to know what a rough estimate is. So a rough estimate is the wide range based on different options. As you can see here, there are three key options for getting a move. That first one is complete professional. This is basically what I think of as the CEO version. You are a CEO, you are far too busy to do anything other than what's required of you, and there's no way that you have any free time whatsoever. So you hire an all-inclusive professional service. So this is where they box everything for you, they load everything for you, they drive it to your new location, and then they unload it and put it back in your house. Now you can see here that you can view the services that you get. This is a full service packing and unpacking. They coordinate everything from start to finish, and they can handle moves across the state or across the country. So obviously we are moving across several states, so that's very important to know. And this is my cost estimate. Now I have a few different options. I have American Van Lines. They're very popular. Safeway Moving. I've reached out to both of those companies already, and they were both perfectly fine. And they have different discounts for certain services, what have you. So if you were interested in that and you were looking for the CEO version, then you click here to get a quote, and that will take you to where you're going. So be advised that in order to move forward with a more complete estimate rather than just this between 3,000 and 7,000 estimate, you will typically be required to put in your personal information. That means your phone number and your email, and I promise you they will start calling you immediately and they won't stop until they send someone to your house. So that's actually why they have this range. Very important to know. Because I'm saying we are moving our home, right? We have a two-bedroom home, one for us, one for the kids. And Most homes, that includes things like a bathroom, a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room. But we might also have a garage. We might also have a she shed. We might also have two bathrooms instead of one. We might have a dining room, a den, and a living room and a kitchen. So that's why they have this estimate. They actually have to send someone to your house, and that someone walks through your house and does an on-site estimate or a video estimate, and they figure out what everything actually costs based on the size of your home and the furniture. Then you have container options. Now, these are a different option. You can see that's slightly lower in price. This is what I call the middle management price. You are willing to do a little bit of labor, right? Maybe your kids are teens and they can help out now, and you load everything into the container and they drive. This is one of my preferred options just because I don't trust the professional companies. They are very good at giving you all the service in one place, but you don't know who they hire as the laborers who come in and pack your things. And I have had a lot of stuff broken in the past because they're just trying to get everything done. I've had movers who had 2 days on their schedule, and they told us this totally openly, if they could get everything done in one day, then that would give them an extra day to take on an extra job and make even more money. So they were much more interested in breaking my furniture while they tried to put it back together the wrong way so that they could just be done for the day, because they thought, oh, it's 4 o'clock. If we just do a few extra hours, we'll be done and we won't have to come back tomorrow. Okay, well, now they're here until 9 o'clock cursing and angry and breaking my stuff. So personally, I prefer the container, but of course, if you don't have the time to pack anything up yourself, then this might not be the best option for you. You can see the cost range here again because it is based on your house and they don't exactly know how much stuff you have. But you can choose 3 different options here: the U-Pack, the pods, and the Zippy Shell. So you can check the prices here for U-Pack. Let's see what U-Pack is going to cost us. So this again is moving from Oregon down to Kansas with a 2-bedroom house. So you would start with U-Pack, and we're moving from Eugene. So that's where we're heading, Eugene, Oregon, and we're moving to Wichita. And we're moving at the end of the month, right? Within 1 month, 2-bedroom house. Now let's see what this quote says. So this is a really great option if you want them to drop the unit off at your house and then you fill it and they take it. So obviously you can compare these options, right? They're going to build your quote. It's based on what you want to do. Freight shipping, same thing. You pack it and then they move it. And then there's here, rental trucks. I've also done this route. This is going to save you a lot of money. Basically, you rent the truck and then you pack everything, you load it in the truck, you drive it yourself. So if you want to calculate your cost accurately, start here. Figure out what it's going to be for all of these options as your base and which of these options you want. Now, as I said, they will send someone to your house if you're looking into things like professional quotes. If you're looking into freight, container, or you ship it yourself, you need to know what your actual size is because you need to know what size truck you're renting. So that is where things like inventory lists come into play. You can find inventory lists online, and that will help you calculate your costs because you can see exactly what furniture you have in each of your rooms. You can see here that you can note what appliances you are taking with you from your kitchen. Things like a table, a refrigerator. Maybe you aren't moving things like a washer and dryer. You're leaving them here and you're going to buy a new washer and dryer when you get to Wichita. These are all very important things to have because they will influence your costs. Obviously, having to ship a washer dryer is going to raise that cost, and it's going to increase the amount of cubic space you need in your moving truck or freight truck or pod. So that's another tip on how to calculate your costs accurately, is starting with that move quote calculator and then figuring out your inventory. Once you know what your inventory is, it's time to look at the moving supplies. So Move Buddha is one of a handful of companies I use for this type of estimate. So you can do the moving box calculator. That helps you based on the number of rooms. So we have 2 rooms, 3 people, and we are an average packer. So it's going to give us an estimate here of the number of boxes we need. Now, the reason I like this estimate is because it includes things like wardrobe boxes and dish packs. Oh, the number of dish packs I have used in the past. Now, knowing the boxes you need is very important because you can see what your actual cost might be. Now, this is based on your guide here, what you're going to put in where. You can look through your house. Once you've used this inventory, you can walk through your house and be like, okay, we have an entire wall of books, so that's probably going to increase our small boxes by a lot more than 14, right? U-Haul has very similar things. U-Haul sets it up. You can pick things like this, the 66 piece moving box. Now, I have used these before. In my opinion, they are a good place to start. Most people need to add to what they have here, but the estimate here is based only on the boxes. The estimate here is based on all of the things that go into the boxes, like wrapping paper, TV screens, tape, pens, bubble wrap. You will always need more bubble wrap, so pad, pardon the pun, that cost by a lot. Once you have decided on the method you are using, and you know how many boxes, that will give you a significantly more accurate list. So make sure that you use tools like this moving cost calculator, the moving box calculator, or moving supplies calculator. And then of course, having that inventory sheet. So if using this moving cost calculator, you have decided that you want to drive yourself, look for discounts from places like U-Haul. If you know, hey, my spouse is a cop, I wonder if they have discounts for active police, then you can check to see if they have any type of discounts based on that. If you are using budget rentals, you can check that as well. If you need to calculate for storage, consider whether companies give you free storage. And things like free standard shipping or free used boxes. You might have a used box option in your area that can give you a much more accurate cost estimate because you can reduce that $300 shipping cost. If you are moving yourself, check these types of discounts because they offer things like hotel discounts. So I always like to look at my route. If you're going to drive yourself, whether it's driving your own vehicle while a company moves all your personal goods, or driving the moving van yourself along with your personal vehicle, you're going to need to know the route. And part of that is estimating your hotel costs. We average about 8 hours driving time, and that's when you start to get annoyed and you don't want to be in the car anymore. Yes, you can try to be one of those people who's like, no, we're going to go 13 hours and get this done quickly, but you might as well make some nice stops along the way, no matter where you're driving, and turn it into a little vacation because then it doesn't suck as much. But I mean, you can always do that fast, terrible route where you're downing monsters, constantly having to pee, and it just sucks the entire time. Personally, I like to go about 8 hours, and I can check the distance based on whether we are hauling something. If you're driving just your car, you can go the regular 65, 75, 85, whatever the speed limit is in that state. If you are driving with a trailer, you're going to need to drop it down to 55 miles per hour. If you are using a U-Haul, the large moving vans, you're still probably looking at 55 on average. So divide that by 8 hours and figure out what your distance is, and then check those areas, find your hotels, calculate what the average hotel is, and check fuel prices. You can check the average fuel price in each of the places you'll be going because your fuel prices will change throughout the state. So if you are crossing states, calculate how much gas you get out of a tank, how many tanks you might need based on your distance, and what the average price is for that area. And that will give you a much better idea of what it's going to cost. And then of course, add about 50 bucks per day for random food and what have you. And from there, you'll be able to really calculate your moving costs much more accurately. Of course, you can use things like discounts on these hotels if you can find things like 10% off Wyndham hotels, 15% off Motel 6. So check if there are any of those along the way. So I would definitely start with moving cost calculators because you can see all of your moving options from there. Get more accurate estimates if you are using a moving company. Make sure that you get an accurate estimate for your moving supplies and your moving boxes. Use an inventory sheet to do that. Make sure that you truly measure how much you have. And then, of course, any part of your move where you are driving or traveling, look into the costs of driving, flying, trains, what have you, and compare things like fuel costs with hotel costs and use hotel discounts where possible so that you know approximately how much it's going to cost for your move.